Hi, ladies and gentlemen. Dave Dobbs here. It's what's the date? It's the 7th of September, and well, what was the last thing I said in the last video? I talked about the quite likelihood. I'd made the video. I think it was on the first of September, and I'd said that we could expect volcanoes to go off, on the 3rd, 4th, and I think they went off on the 3rd anyway. But by the time I was editing the video, I kind of knew that anyway, and I guess you probably knew that anyway. And as we were kind of expecting Shepherd's to go off more anyway, and I guess we're kind of expecting Etna to go off more. They are kind of active volcanoes, but we are seeing a massive increase all around. Everywhere we're looking, we know that more and more volcanoes are going off, and because of the alignments, if we saw the actual first time Shepherd's on the Kamchatka Peninsula went off, and the first time, not the first time obviously, but Etna going off actually the same time was just like 3 days before the last would have been a new moon, and then kind of 2-3 days after. So we get that alignment, if you see what I'm saying. Let me just share my screen here, because I'd really like to invite let me share my screen. I'd really like to invite some of the gamers involved with Universe Sandbox into this astronomical journey of discovery. And I've got a way in which we could possibly all come together, and that's by doing a competition with gamers who use the Universe Sandbox simulation package to build solar systems and galaxies, and makes all sorts of ask all kinds of what if questions by creating the simulations in models, because it's very, very, very difficult to. So I'm just looking for my share, and of course I'm just going straight over it. There we are. So I want to share well, before I go to the Universe Sandbox, let's get to the most interesting bit first of all, because Alex Lujan, who runs the Planet X channel, just put up a shot. I don't think he put it up on the 1st of. I think he put it up. He just put it up yesterday. I think it went up yesterday. It was a sensational shot, and I'll show you the shot. But I just want to give you. I know that's kind of Africa there and what have you, but I'm just going to bring that up just to the 1st of September to below the sunrise, just so we're going to look at what is north and south of the solar system, because obviously, I'd have to turn. I don't know if I can turn the globe a little bit around to. Oh, look, that's kind of Mexico-like-y sort of area up here. Yeah, so we're kind of seeing where they're looking at the sunrise. Sorry. Looking at that right? Yeah, 7 o'clock in the morning, I believe. We'll have a look at the shot in 2 shakes. Let's just come round, and just before sunrise, from that perspective, imagine that the horizon line is for Mexico is here, and the object that comes over the horizon seems to be over here on the right-hand side, which is the southern aspect of the solar system. From that perspective, between us and the sun, that they could see it at that point. Let me just stop this share and just come to the shot that Alex Lujan put up. Let me just go over to my Safari, and that was a very interesting shot that Steve Olson just recently put up, and ironically Alex Lujan put up a very, very similar shot. It almost makes me think it was the same shot, but I'm not too sure now. But very possibly not, very possibly, I'm not too sure. But remember the first shot that I got on October the 14th, something like that. I can't remember the exact date of it now. It's must be 2015. Was capturing it at this same sort of this time when it's just beyond the sun from our perspective. So why the sun is why can you see it right next to the sun at that point? That would be an impossibility to see something next to the sun at that point. But there it is, which implies that that's not sunlight blocking it out. It's this big blurry light that's blocking it out. And so let's go to there we are. Alex Lujan's another phenomenal event. So I can't say the word today. I'll let you play his video because he's just picked this up, and I'm just going to leave it. Let you go onto this and let you see the full. Even though it's webcams, whatever they're called, Mexico, you know, the Mexican webcams. It's he's got all the links there on his channel anyway. He'll take you through it, but you can just see this object here. I can't seem to just, maybe I can just come over there, but you can see. What's interesting is does it appear that the curve is going round? It kind of does. What's causing that? Is it Earth's gravity that is pulling it off the orbit the trail that I'm imagining it should have? Because I would imagine its curve going the opposite way. It was done on the, does it say there? It's 7/17. I think that's right. 1st of the 9th, 07, 17 minutes past 7. So it's early in the morning. So remembering this is where I see it right now. This is Earth going round the sun. There's this object over here. You can see it in the shot that as you're looking at it, you can see it beyond for very rarely we can see it, and they seem to kind of like almost like spiraling along. They're not on an ecliptic plane, which is what like they're spiraling through this space, rather than on a flat ecliptic plane moving through it, which is why we see them in that formation. Keep seeing them in this very localized formation, as Steve and both Alex Lujan put Steve Olsen on his WSO channel and Alex Lujan just put up on their channel, seeing the same thing, possibly the same photo, I'm not too sure, but obviously the same observation. And that's what I've got here, as you can see. Now, this model is, of course, I did this because I was still grappling with if the Planet X system was localized to one side of the solar system or the other, which was still because I was still very much seeing our solar system from this flat ecliptic plane, not this Copernicus model that, like I say, we've been with for 400 years, not this conical model, which changes the entire aspect ratio of our distance to the sun compared to our distance at the circumference of our orbit. I don't know if you can see that as a dynamic. When you stretch something out as a coil, you change those variables. They become variable. It's not on a flat plane. And this has been a difficult thing with this model. And this is why I'd like to reach out to the big community of people, because I just noticed that one of the video makers, let me just, this is what is, that's 2019. Let's just, before I come out of that, maybe I should just, this point here, and of course, stop the sound. You know, obviously we're going to get the point where we're going to. So that's the point where I was talking about where we are now, basically with it. And these are obviously, they go too fast there, but maybe I can come out of that, and because I redid this little section just so we could go to it. says it's so difficult to find. Well, this we're seeing here. Sorry, I'll move that away so we can see the text. With 2016, looking at this from the perspective as if all these sightings have been a single sighting. This was last year. This is where we're coming up to, where we saw, Krakatoa, the supposed mudslide where the whole of the top of the volcano gets blown off. And then we see epic sightings of it just when I'm saying it's going to fly by. Exactly what we're expecting to see. Corroborated testimony in a court of law. You could put someone away with this, in a court of law if it was kind of murder evidence. It's just like one after the other, epic sightings of it. Oh, absolutely epic sightings of it. Just utterly fantastic all the way through this. And then we see the asteroids just when I'm expecting to see the asteroids. Wrap the news, put them up. And of course, this is what we're coming up to next to now is these. We're literally coming right next to them, literally right now. We don't know how close we're going to get to them. We don't know how protected we are going to be from them by the benevolence that provides the Earth experience. That was the sighting next to it was a sighting the third phase of the moon put up and evolutionary energy arts, and they both put it up. I can't remember when it was. I think it was around about July, August, but just when we were expecting to go by it. So where I was going with that is that well, I just stopped on another. I do remember I just stopped on this point here. Let me open this up a little bit and explore a little bit more about why I created this. If you notice, if you look at this diagram, you can see that in here, we've got the sun in the middle, the big yellow one here, coming down. Now that's completely the opposite to the model, that kind of idea that we're on a kind of like, that north is up and the sun is going up. I truly do not know which way the sun is moving, but I put it because the official direction that we're talking about is completely contrary to the kind of like, it doesn't run sort of perpendicular to the orbit of the planets going around the sun. It goes at this kind of skewed angle, and I'm kind of thinking, well, that doesn't look really kind of very feasible in the general kind of orbital mechanics of what I'm seeing. It doesn't seem that feasible. But then I might be completely wrong. But I just look at, since I've been starting looking at things like, Universe Sandbox, where we can start playing with simulations in that we're not just looking at the standard ecliptic model with all the planets moving around. We give that motion. And in many of my videos, I explore that enormously because of simulations that I've built in this game. Like I say, Universe Sandbox. But what it means is it means that the orbit of this second sun that we see here, what I'm just calling Planet X here, it never really crosses the ecliptic plane as we've come to know. It sort of it's heading towards the sun, but as it gets closer, it gets towards the sun. Of course, the sun was always heading away from where it was last heading, and so you've got this kind of ending with this point where it always eventually misses and it just swings off, but it's a closed orbit. It's always stuck in the sun's gravity, so it's always chasing behind. And the only way that these two objects, we know there are two objects because I've shown them at many stages in my videos, and quite a few different people have caught them at different stages in this cycle, that we know there's two. And when we see them, we've seen them too many times looking like they're running right next to each other. When we see them and they're in tandem, and we can see they're always orbiting the same central point. Not our sun, but we know they're always orbiting the same central point, because when they're seen together, you can see they're at that they have that. They obviously have that. And this I've always said, I don't know which way this is moving. Okay. So I don't know which way this is moving. I've never worked out which way the sun is moving. But here's a big challenge for all of you out there. That the video that I went to specifically, the channel that I went to, I'll come back to that, was what's his name? His name is Gray Still Plays. And I think his name is Gray. So this is a message as much to you, Gray, as and your subscribers and all those people out there that are interested in this, interested in developing this, is to actually look at what's actually happening right now. Look at how I've turned that journey, that the animation I showed you earlier, where you have this twin tail object going round and round our sun, and this binary twin passing very close to our sun at this aspect. And so all the objects orbiting our sun and all the objects effectively orbiting this dwarf planet are kind of, they're all orbiting the same, the orbital, the dwarf planet and the sun are in the center. A bit like a bit like how I've stopped on the screenshot of your channel here, of these two, this sun and this dwarf planet, as that could be in this shot, whatever the story you've got over running on the top here. I gave the Earth 100 trillion, or is that billion? 100 billion Saturn rings, universe sandbox. So this, if we come back to this this shot here, of understanding that it may never fully cross the ecliptic, but the challenge here is that we know, I've got that, we're developing our understanding of our solar system and our binary twin and how they move through each other here. And this shot Alex Lugeon has shown is, if you can see, the reason I've placed this as going completely kind of opposite to the direction our sun is going is because I might be standing a bit up my own backside here, is because when I look at this model, I built this because the only way I can seem to make this work in so many of my models is by having the sun moving down. It works with the sun moving up also, but some of the sightings are a little bit tricky to work. And the irony is that if we come back now to this sighting here, the sun there at sunset, and this is at the right hand side. We stop the share and we share now. We come back to solar system scope. We're looking at the sun at sunset. This thing is to the right hand side. And this frustrates me for so many reasons. It's because I want to crack the orbital mechanics of this. And I had to upgrade using Universe Sandbox. Let me see if I can, just for the users of Universe Sandbox. I won't put it into motion, but let's just go back very quickly, just to give you a gist of a mindset of how this looks in a 3D. I'm going to struggle to find it, but we'll go on to here and I'll just crudely scan along and hope that I might have an easy access point. Because if we can explain, say, this shot, how realistically we saw on a webcam Jupiter clearly giving a plasma shot to a planet in our immediate vicinity, as well as all the other epic shots that we've seen of Jupiter, especially, February, May, last year and the year before, the epic shots of the massive blue planet. We cannot just keep ignoring all of these phenomenal sightings that run so perfectly. So, and obviously not forgetting the fact that we knew it was going to fly by Mars. We knew it was going to there was going to be a close flybys to Mars where it was going, and then we saw, then we saw the the volcano go off on Mars just when we're expecting it to go off. So it was kind of that time where it's kind of that time where we kind of we're seeing I wasn't fully understanding that this was two objects. I wasn't too, as you can see, as I've just put up on the screen there, it's like two objects passing through our ecliptic plane, two objects that cross our ecliptic plane, and yet this main object never actually crosses it. It just comes underneath us or on top of us, whichever you are assuming. But I'm going to ask you now, it's because of Alex Lujan's shot. I didn't find the shot I was looking for. I got distracted by someone who just came by then. Apologies. So just for the, if I can see it there. Yeah, right there. You can imagine that from that aspect of this dwarf planet coming through here, we get 2 points of crossing, which is the 1939 point, which is the 3 points of crossing. The first point here where it cuts through, the second point here where where they pass, again where the edges kind of clip past each other. And then this point here where we are again. So we have these kind of like these points that on both sides where we cross, and that point here that we're at right now, imagine if it wasn't this way round, but it was the other way round, and that this was the bigger of the two, and that our sun, let me stop that share, and that our sun, the diagram I showed you there, it's the reverse, and that our sun is the one trailing behind. Now this begins a whole different school of thought. I'm not saying this is correct, but you can see by Alex Lujan's shot there, it does look like it goes the opposite way. And I have explored so many different ways. The only way I haven't explored is the complete reverse. And so for out there, we could make a money pot here, and I'm up for seeing if enough people could put some money in to create a prize draw. We could work it with whoever's got the biggest channel, who could create the most amount of hit, to bring all the information I've given you about the orbital mechanics of this that we know so far, and use that and that alone, as I've always done with my models. And when new information has come in, I've had to abandon my model and say, guys, I'm getting bits where I've got the exact mechanics of this. We know exactly where this thing is. We know exactly where it is, but this is like a mirror reflection where I'm seeing it. And I'm trying to fathom. We know we're going to cross the path of it because we know we come up to the place where it's coming up to. We can see the exact track. We can see the tail that we're right next to. But the arc of it, is it because it is what I suggest it is, and our gravity has pulled the arc over? Or is there another orbital track within this that I'm missing? Can we work together to build this? We don't have to make the whole model work from start to finish. What we can do is we can build it in sections, because we won't probably have enough control over the orbital mechanics. But we could build it in sections, and then we could overlay those sections. We could build it in sections, piece by piece, like they do with a big Hollywood movie. If you want to get involved in that, so maybe not one person gets all the prize money, but all the different people, we work together as a mass of people. We trigger this into your video stream, because I don't get any coverage on this. You know, when I had like 3,000 or 4,000 subscribers, I was getting like 150,000 hits of video. Now I've got 20,000 subscribers. I have no idea of how many real hits I'm getting. Steve Olsen's got I don't know, way more than 100,000 subscribers. He doesn't get any more than like 20,000. We're looking at massive planets flying by our Earth, and we're seriously assuming that we're getting 0 views. We have no idea of the statistics involved in what's going on at the moment. But I cannot imagine that there's a massive amount of people out there, as we are being led to believe by the media, that are believing, with all the volcanoes going off at the moment, all the volcanoes around the Pacific Basin, all the new volcanoes around Antarctica, 29 new volcanoes, the Emperor Hawaiian Seamount Chain, 4,600 kilometers of underwater volcanoes all going up, the blob under the Pacific Basin also. Can they seriously be ignoring it? I cannot believe they are. I cannot believe they are. And suddenly this massive turnaround in government. I feel like there's a change happening. I feel like people are seeing through this carbon dioxide story and realizing that what they want is clean energy. They do not want to be used as an agenda to drive nuclear power stations to be built on fault lines. But we can clearly see they're shaking. And to lower the carbon dioxide by stopping these volcanoes, by building these nuclear power stations on these fault lines and calling that a science. I don't think people are buying that in the mass that we're being told by the media they are. I don't know if Climate Extinction Rebellion is really about all of this either. I think if I go there, in actual fact, I'm going to go there tomorrow. I am going to do it. I'm going to go there tomorrow. I'm going to get my camera. I've got my camera ready and everything. And if there's anyone from Extinction Rebellion there who wants to come and speak to me about what they feel about these volcanoes, and whether they feel that that what they're doing is leading to an agenda which wants to lower carbon dioxide by saturating the planet with nuclear power stations. Is that really the agenda? I don't believe it is. I think it's much more complex than that. I'm hoping it's much more complex than that. And this is just how the media is spinning it. And that when I'm going to get there tomorrow, I'm going to find a whole different story that they're seeing. There's something big affecting Earth, whether they just want to tie it off to a grand solar minimum event and go down GSM, or whether they want to take it to a Thunderbolt event. We're looking at something affecting not just our Earth, but clearly by the volcano that went off on Mars, is affecting Mars. Let's draw the orbital mechanics of this up, and let's set a competition in motion for those who put the hours in to do this. And let's use all their footage. And the ones who get their footage in there get you know, the ones who make it get the proportion of their airtime in that video. And we'll set it up, and that money that comes in that you'll donate, you can donate if you choose to, we'll just go into that so they can make that happen. So it will get as much attention so we can all look at this and build a model that could explain how Jupiter just done a flyby, clearly done a flyby, as well as these two twin dial objects, how we fit this into a model. Is Earth, is our sun the big player that's orbiting, that's chasing behind the dwarf planet, or is the dwarf planet the big player here? We will be able to see with the information, with Matt Rogers' famous shot on the 15th of August 2016, we can put all these orbital mechanics together. Becky Lewis's shot on the 24th or 25th of 24th, 25th, maybe 25th of January, maybe 24th, can't remember now, 24th of December, maybe 25th of December, 2015. I want to totally put her on the map. My eyes made her a proper astronomer. She was out there looking at what's really going on, not just getting lost in what people are telling us is going on, looking, putting it together, the real data, not the bullshit. We've got this opportunity here. If we all came together, we could create a tidy nest egg that would be an attractive proposition for a lot of people to think, I want to get involved in that. I want a piece of that money. And they could earn it. They could win it. They could win it. And we could throw a lot of information together really, really massively, but I haven't got the kind of output to be able to bring that together. And my computer system barely runs. I can't just run those systems. If we work together and we piece together and we start pooling it on a few videos, all your different ideas, and we start taking the best of those, maybe we could come up with a competition where we finally get to run it from start to finish in full Technicolor and see the full true zodiac, run it for at least 2,000 years and see the way this has danced through these two, our sun and this dwarf planet, this second sun, have danced through each other for the last 2,000 years. See our true zodiac. Wouldn't that be a thing to feast your eyes on? Wouldn't that be something to marvel? Wouldn't that be a pinnacle of an age? Wouldn't that be the most breathtaking sight to see your divine connection in pure flowing motion to the galaxy? Wouldn't that be a galactic connection? Wouldn't you be on seeing that galactic being? Not that you are not in any way, but wouldn't being able to feast your eyes on that? Just as, the whole template for this, was given to me by Nassim Haramein's model when he showed me the sun moving along and all the planets chasing behind. When he gave me that model, I was able to apply that model, which enabled me to build the first Dobbs model, which enabled me to build the second biggest model, which you guys funded, which enabled me to apply that in motion, in 3D, that Carlos Rada couldn't do because he couldn't see. He connected. He said it would reappear in 1999, and of course we saw Comet Halley-Bopp in 1998. He made that connection, but he couldn't put that in a 3D motion as we can now see as the models that I have run, because of computer systems that enable us to see that, to enable us to see why Kilauea, why Krakatoa, and why Chernobyl erupted on the 26th of April, 1986, the Great Storm of 1987, the Red Season, the water going red in Cancun in Africa, all around the same time. We can only truly understood that if we start seeing our solar system in 3D. Imagine going back 2,000 years, that time 262 AD, when the sun went out for 3 days. Earthquakes across Europe, recorded in ancient texts. Exactly in this sequence of this, it's around about 189 year, and if you put these dates in order and you take into account the Gregorian calendar, where we lose 1 year and 10 days in 1582. Now most normal calendars will deduct that if you go onto a calendar, but if you want to run this system in a solar system scope, you can run this system in solar system scope.com. Will they have entered the precise mechanics of that into solar system, into universe Sandbox? I doubt it, because they've all the models I've been using have been running from about 2013, and of course all the orbital mechanics of my observation of that running this is running from about 2000. You know, the specific mechanics that enabled me to see the 200-day timeline of this twin tail object that enabled me to build this much bigger model. This obviously started, you know, for me, it was like 2011. The models I've always run, you know, from the 5th of August, 2011. But obviously the, the bigger cycle, their models, you know, there's just different people, I guess, that have created different models and put them into Universe Sandbox. You know, ultimately, I think a Sandbox is like, you know, Photoshop or something. Like Sandbox is a kind of like a package where you can animate stuff, and so Universe Sandbox is just like this animation package that has been dedicated to building orbital mechanics and using all the jargon that astronomers use: density, you know, mass, you know, speed, atomic density. You know, they can add so much to it. It's so exciting, and you can do collisions. You can create asteroid collisions. So it's such an exciting that if we could come together and feed this with cash that we could actually offer as a prize, as a reward, we could get a bigger audience, and we could potentially we could squeeze as much information out now by all the brains on this. They don't realize how advanced they are, but if we could collectively bring this together, the different aspects of this, we're going to have to experiment. You're going to have to go through my videos and look at how I've observed all the different orbital mechanics. Understand that I've never been right. I have always built an orbit. I've always created an orbital thing that goes round and round and round that explains the sightings. I wasn't trying to have an astronomically correct. I was obviously attempting to get to an astronomically correct place, but I'm looking at a way in which it explains how these cycles can come into existence. And when we've run out of options, then that's the point where I've had to take another jump and just say, God, I'm gonna have to put more time into it and work it out and evolve it. But there's always been this lack of information. We've never got quite enough information to piece it up, and it's all nearly, it could be, oh, that could mean. But piece by piece by piece, we followed this breadcrumb trail, all of us, feeding into all this information. Lots of people out there with different faiths and beliefs coming at this from different angles, but nonetheless offering astronomical evidence that is the basis of my timeline, and always has been, and I've always had to correct it. And even today I'm just showing, I'm like, guys, how does that work? What's happening, or how does that art work? We know it's exactly where we're expecting it to be. We're going to be kind of closest to it around about kind of like on this aspect of its cycle, October the 22nd, although you know you can imagine that Friday the 13th, ironically, because the earthquakes or the volcanoes that went off just before the last new moon, we can imagine Friday the 13th, just before the full moon, is likely going to be a kind of a real point of increased volcanoes. It's very likely, and then just during and obviously after, but we could also see, yeah, I'm starting to get closer, so we're starting to see the potential of slight oceanic kind of like certainly big storms, quite crazy storms. Going to be a lot of volcanoes. Is going to create a lot of moisture, enormous amount of moisture, especially in what's happening underneath the Pacific Basin. And then these volcanoes chucking up these tiny particulates. This moisture condenses on these tiny particulates. And so you get big raindrops and lots of big mass moving up in the jet streams. Huge, great mass of water moving at high speed, massive energies. It's all going on. It's all very real. It's all totally here, and we're right next to the asteroids. Ooh! Big golden rings of protection. Make comments if you're liking the idea of getting together with the competition. Put it out, share this video, get it out there. Come on, let's get as much information as possible. Let's have as much awareness to what's really going on. This is our naked lunch. This is really what's going on the end of the fork. And so we want to kind of like, we want to bring all the attention to what's going on. We want to be focused, not become controlled opposition in this, where we can be used, because they want unrest. They want unrest. They want to drive the vibration down now. They want the lowest possible you to be the residing you through this. And it doesn't have to be that way. You don't be divided at every juncture by different stories. See through all these different stories. See through the Brexit divide. See through the Trump and the Clinton divide. See through the climate change divide. Just want to save the earth. One thing we want to save this earth is peace and clean energy. Clean energy is what we need. That's what we've got to go after. That's what it's all about. We're abundant with it, utterly abundant with it. The story of lack is just a story to drive this whole stupid. And the money that comes in is what so much money is behind so many of these movements, which drives the core of them. But individually, the people want a bigger change. They want clean energy.